one of the things that I do a lot is encourage a daily practice of some kind. Because one of the essential bases of sustainable relating is mindfulness. And so some kind of mindfulness practice, which psychotherapy is a mindfulness practice, the way I practice it. It's really paying attention to one's sensations, one's perceptions, one's emotions, and one's thoughts, and one's actions. So a mindfulness practice may follow from this visualization. To find a place in your neighborhood or your surrounding that's available to you where you can go on a daily basis or at least a weekly basis or some regular basis and be with a natural being, be it a plant or an animal or a landscape, or a particular scene, and spend at least, 5 minutes a day is a lot for many people because they're so busy. I think the whole Northeast is in a massive manic episode myself, but I hear from people that other parts of the country are moving in that direction. So maybe it's not just the Northeast. I do have clients who move here from other parts of the country and they find it very traumatic, just the pace of life. But a daily practice of mindfulness, of some aspect of the world that is not normally attended to, and the so-called natural world, the more than human world, is, I think, a very important part of that.
Children come into the world with a profound fascination for the natural world around them, for animals, for plants. It comes built in. But it seems to me that a lot of our education in the urban industrial world is devoted to separating children from the natural world so that they almost feel hostile toward it. That's built into our educational process in the modern world. But that does involve, I think, rooting out of children what I've called the ecological unconscious, or if not rooting it out, muting it, silencing it, so that they cannot hear what I've called the voice of the earth. You can find in children everything you need for a healthy relationship to the natural environment. So that in a very real sense you might say that ecopsychology is devoted to the goal of keeping children as sane as they're born. I've met therapists, ecopsychologists, who believe that often they can bring people great peace and stability by acquainting them with the fact that whatever else is going wrong in their life, from their marriage to their relationship to their children to their job, as a matter of fact, this mothering planet is keeping them alive every moment of their lives. That they have a lot that's sustaining them in the world. And for many people, that comes as an insight, and a very consoling, comforting, and supporting insight. That, as a matter of fact, each one of us is the product of millions of years of evolution on this planet, which finally produced life and human life, and that we are bonded to the planet by something that sustains us, has sustained our species for millions of years. That's a deep insight into our true condition. And even beyond the Earth itself, we are in a sense bonded to the whole cosmos by a process of cosmological evolution that goes back to the very beginning of the universe. This sense of belonging, of being part of the great cosmological system of things, is for many people a source of tremendous peace, consolation, tranquility, and I would go further. It also happens to be true. This is not just a consoling story. This is the truth. We are bonded to the entire universe around us in ways that ought to be inspiring and supportive.
I think the experience that I had personally of acknowledging my own potential alignment with the millions and millions of years of life on the planet will give me a new sense of standing, as not as somebody who's just simply fighting for civil rights or equality, but but as a person with consciousness asserting my role as a global citizen to help society move in the right direction. And I think there would be, if we could, in fact, find a way to make that message the mainstream of the experience of African Americans, would have enormous potential for helping us move toward not only reconciliation, but also getting our priorities right.
The eco-psychology movement is much beholden to a large body of ecological thought over the last few generations. In the past, the historical past, it was often the case that it seemed the best approach was always to analyze and atomize all issues and problems, to make them smaller and smaller and more clearly defined. And the essence of ecology as the science of connectedness is to see that all such forms of isolation are artificial. And there may be good reasons for doing that on a temporary basis, but ultimately whatever you analyze, whatever you isolate, has to be reconstituted as part of a whole. So the emphasis these days in science, all sciences, on systems is enormous. It's come to be the great insight, I think, of the late 20th century. You can only very artificially remove anything in the natural world from the greater system within which it is nested.
The concept that we're developing is that of the holonic experience of self. And the holon is a term coined by Arthur Koestler to refer to the dual nature of any system. And a system can be anything from a cell to a human to a community. And that any system is both a whole in and of itself and at the same time simultaneously a part of a larger system. We in this culture have focused on the self, the human experience of identity, the self, as a whole and as a separate whole. And what we need to look at is the self as a part of larger wholes. So one of the major tasks that we focus on in our work as psychotherapists is enabling the client to hear the universe speak through them, that they're each uniquely a part of the universe, and as wholes they have a unique part to play. So that's the holonic view of the self. It's very difficult to articulate and it's very difficult to teach, but it isn't hard to listen for when clients are talking, that they each have a unique experience of the systems of which they are a part.
Ecopsychology is committed to the idea that we have a much larger relationship that has to be honored. We've spoken of it as defining sanity as if the whole world mattered. We've described it as an attempt to awaken our emotional or sympathetic bond with the earth. We've described it as an attempt to apply the insights of psychotherapy to the needs of the environmental movement. What all of this clearly indicates is a growing synthesis of two communities of thought, one dealing with the deep inner nature of people and the other dealing with the distant outer nature of the planet as a whole, an attempt to bring these together in a dialogue and a synthesis. And I simply take this to be the richest, most dramatic and exciting intellectual enterprise I've come across in years, and I think a fit way to round off the 20th century and begin the 21st. A new beginning for the environmental movement and a revolution in modern psychology.
To order a video cassette of Ecopsychology, send $25 to Foundation for Global Community, 222 High Street, Palo Alto, California, 94301.